Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
No, I'm very well. Yes, moved in. So yeah, recording from the new location. Managed to get to see two films over this period of time, mainly because one of them I'd watched before we did our review of Withnail and I. So I was it was a long time ago, but the film has stuck with me. So I
That's
have
a good sign.
Yeah, have solid memories of it. Do you want to kick us off, or where do you want to go?
Should we start with that one then?
All right. So Netflix is, well, I don't know if it's Netflix's. It's directed by Joanne Renck. Spaceman 2024 movie. It's only on Netflix. Not sure if it's a Netflix production or whether they just owned the rights.
I think
it's an indie movie that they
Sandler's got I think exclusive with Netflix, hasn't he, at the moment? So I think it's
yeah, maybe
that would be my guess.
Yeah. So yes, so starring Adam Sandler, Kerry Mulligan. I'm curious what you made of this film.
I know.
Huh?
Well, it's based on a book.
Yes, which I've not read. So.
No, Chekhov's from I think 2017, I think.
Yeah.
And it's story of the guy who's a purple cloud has appeared in the sky, basically.
Yeah, they've discovered this kind of cloud in space, kind of nebula-looking thing. It's a new thing that's suddenly appeared. They want to send an astronaut to go and find it. So Jacob, this Czech astronaut, is sent on this 6-month mission to reach this nebula. Leaving his heavily, or not heavily at the time, but heavily by the time of this movie, pregnant wife at home. It kind of explores his loneliness, his running away from home, his father issues. It
basically starts with him about to arrive at the cloud. He's been on his own all this time.
And we see this kind of regime back home that are kind of propping him up as this big hero, and there's this whole media machine behind him.
And it's got like his face on all the products. And he has to do adverts before he can like use certain products on the ship.
Like every time he wants
to. I really loved. I thought that was great.
If he wants to clean his teeth or something, he's got to do like an ad read first or something. You know.
And basically, you get him there, and you get Kerry Mulligan, who's basically decided that she doesn't want. She has this device in her house that basically means she can talk to him every day, sort of thing.
Yes, they are able to directly communicate with each other.
But she's basically decided that she doesn't want to be together anymore because he's, fucked off and left her alone.
Yes, and not for the first time.
And for problems you come to realize obviously are not just this.
No, it's not just this mission. There's history there.
Yeah, and she's walked away, as it were.
Yeah. For her own mental health, and heavily pregnant as well. There's a lot of stress going on there, and
and it's it's a very sort of low character movie. You've got those two. You've got the Isabella Rossellini, who's like the sort of she's the sort of commissioner who's sort of in charge of everything. You've got Kunal Nayyar, who is the he's
like the NASA, the Czech NASA guy, right?
Yeah, he's the sort of the NASA controller that talks to Jakob and Sandler's character all the time. So it's mainly sort of focused on those. Oh, and Paul, of course, Paul Dano is
wonderful. Paul Dano
is the voice.
Yeah.
And as he gets close to this thing, and clearly he's beginning to have problems.
He's cracking. Yeah, he's cracking on the way there.
He's cracking, and
especially when she's not returning his calls, he's starting to lose it. Yeah.
And there's a mechanical problem with his toilet, which means he's not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, because it just makes this mechanical noise all night, right? Yeah.
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 And eventually, a voice starts talking to him.
Yes. Yes.
And he has a nightmare first, involving. Well, I don't know whether I should say really about the nightmare, but he does start hearing a voice, which turns out to be this spider alien.
Yes, giant spider.
Yeah, who he ends up calling Hanus.
Yeah.
And to be fair, his reaction's pretty good. He does freak out.
Oh no, totally. I love when he's like telling Mission Control, he's like, we need to like decontaminate, and they're like, well, I'm not seeing anything on my sensors. He's like, I'm definitely reading something. He's like looking out the window, this giant spider on the wall.
And of course, he's like, all the are the cameras working in there? Is it? Well, no, the cameras aren't working right now. You know they're not working, so they can't see, at all.
No.
And basically, is this alien who says he's been around for centuries, and that this purple cloud is part of the Big Bang, basically.
Yeah, he says it's the beginning.
Yeah, part of creation.
And he reiterates several times, it's harmless. It's not going to hurt you. It's just the beginning.
And he says basically that his race doesn't have the. I guess the sort of weird hang-ups that humans have
they're very alien in the way they process emotion and their views on life are clearly very different to
everything happens because it happens, and they don't think about the past.
They're much more logical as well. Yeah. Like the problems he points out with him and his wife and their relationship, he's just like, well, you ran away, but running away hurts you. Why did you? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why have you done that? Very much more logical. We learn that through Janus that his race or his home world was obliterated by some alien creatures or something, and he had to run, whereas obviously Jakob has chosen to run away. So there's kind of that interesting kind of dynamic there where he's homeless and you're choosing to be homeless, and he's kind of viewing it from that perspective as well. And
Sandler is fucking amazing.
He is. I've said before, I'm sure on this show, I'm not the biggest Adam Sandler comedy fan.
Yeah.
I see him much the same as Jim Carrey. Like, it's not that I don't hate all of the comedic movies of Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey. I just think when they're doing their serious stuff, they're fantastic, and I'm like, more of this. Like,
I am quite a big Sandler
I know you are. Yeah.
I love most of his comedies, except there's a period where it starts going downhill, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's made some ropey stuff in the last couple of years, but he's also made some good stuff. And I'm a real big fan of like Punch Drunk Love and Reign Over Me, which is like, no one's seen fucking I talk to you has ever seen Reign Over Me, but I think it's brilliant. It's a film about he's basically, his family died in 9/11.
Yeah.
And it's just him coping with it, and it's really fucking good. And weirdly, it's a similar sort of thing, I guess. It's a similar sort of his character dealing with emotional issues and things, and I think Sandler he's very surprising that he does this sort of thing so well.
I mean, he slips into these kind of roles amazingly well.
Yeah, and he's really good in this. He's really understated.
Honestly, this movie is. I will say, I think the film is well written. It's very well written.
Yes.
But it would be a shadow of itself were it not for Paul Dano and Adam Sandler. The movie
without the three mains, without.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, and Carey Mulligan too.
Because even she, although her part is it's a lesser part, she and she doesn't have that
pivotal though.
The stuff that she's going through, you sort of you understand, and you do sort of think, oh God, she's
dealing with a lot, especially when you learn about things that have happened before.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, I totally understand why she might be done with this shit. Like, I completely understand,
Yeah, and I like the way that, Hanus basically uses, they have this thing where he uses, he can sort of read Jakob's mind in a sort of, he can replay him scenes from his from his life, and you learn about his father.
You kind of get the impression that's how he learns things, is like he kind of learns, he can kind of mind read, but then obviously Jakob is a part of that reading, so he's experiencing it again. Yeah.
And it, you find out about his father, and you find out about the Czech regime, and what his father, how his father was part of that, and how he grew up and what happened to him, and those sorts of things, and how that affected, who he is and what's his decisions.
Yeah.
And I think it handles all those things really smartly. It handles them really well. It's, it doesn't excuse them. It doesn't excuse him, and it just makes him aware of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, the big thing about this movie, which at the end of the day I don't think really matters, is Hanu's real.
And ultimately, I don't think it matters.
No,
I completely agree, and that's not a spoiler, by the way. It's pretty obvious from the very start that they're like, is it in his mind or is it real? Because there's those moments as well where like Hanus is like, Jacob almost immediately goes to touch him, and Hanus is like, oh no, please don't. That's disrespectful to my kind. We don't do that. And he's like, oh okay, I see where this is going. Glad it never answers that question. More than happy for it to just be an open thing.
But it has a really, I mean, as their relationship goes on, it becomes actually quite sweet.
It's very sweet. I think their interactions are very, very sweet throughout the movie. And not to diminish Adam Sandler's performance, which is tremendous, but Paul Dano's performance in this is fantastic.
Yeah.
His voice,
he's just a voice,
but it's fantastic. It's so well executed.
For a creature that sort of doesn't really have the emotional range that a human has, he has a lot of emotional range.
and the effects department did a very good job with the.
He looks great.
He looks great, and he is kind of cute by the end. You're like, yeah, actually, when you first see him, you're like, oh god, and then
he's fucking no. I'm not convinced of that. I don't
know. The big eyes, man. It's they're not necessarily the small eyes, but the big eyes. I'm like, oh, those are cute.
Creepy.
Well, I love when he's eating, Nutella and stuff, and
that is quite sweet. I will give you that. When he gives him the Nutella to eat, it's quite funny.
Because he wants the eggs, doesn't he? He's like, if you've got the avian avian overs or whatever, that's funny.
And I do love the fact that he finds the noise of the toilet soothing.
Yeah. Because he's hanging out in the toilet because he's like, I find this really soothing. This noise.
This room is off limits to you. You're not allowed in this room. Like 10 minutes later, he opens the door and he's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, at this point of the review, I loved this movie.
I did.
I was really, really impressed with this film. I didn't know anything about it either. I just put it on. I was in the middle of packing. I was surrounded by chaos. And I just needed, I was knackered. I just needed an escape for like a couple of hours. So I thought I'd put a movie on. This was top of the list. Put it on. Didn't even know Adam Sandler was in it. And then I was like, wow, what a film. I saw
the trailer and thought, I'm completely hooked. I'll definitely give that a go. I thought the trailer was fantastic. And it's really lovely. And it's, there's some really sort of, nice little tense moments that, no sort of, no sort of big moments like, something like Gravity or something like that. It's not about that. It's more to do with,
and there has been
humanity and how
I've seen comparisons to Interstellar. I get the comparisons, but it's a very different movie.
I still haven't seen that movie.
It's okay. I like. There's a lot to like in Interstellar. There's a lot that infuriates me too, though. Unfortunately, I'm finding more and more that. Like Nolan's, a lot of Nolan movies have this like equal parts amazing and frustrating to me. I'm finding it a lot with his films. I'm always like, I find like a lot of his earlier films, I'm like, yeah, I really love those movies. The more recent ones, I'm always like, oh, it's a great movie, but.
Yeah, I think
there's always a but, and I'm always like, oh, if they'd only done this, it would be so much better.
As he's sort of become more indulgent, I think.
Yes, he is very self-indulgent these days with his stuff. But I guess he's got every right to be now. He's reached that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, what can you say? I guess if anything, he's fucking earned the right to be self-indulgent.
Do you know what? We're talking about self-indulgence, Matt.
Yep.
And I think that leads very nicely onto one of the films you've watched, and I haven't even seen it. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume.
Well, before we do that, I'll just finish off by saying that there was the only thing that sort of slightly, it didn't exactly bother me, but it was they're clearly supposed to be Czech.
Yeah, I mean the names are Czech. I think yes.
And I'm glad that they didn't go giving them Russian
Yeah, they did a Hunt for Red October. They were like, just
but
don't even try.
Feel slightly weird accepting American sounding
with the names and stuff.
Adam Sandler as a Czech astronaut.
It does kind of make you wonder why
English sounding Kerry Mulligan as a Czech woman.
It does make you wonder why they didn't make it Americans. Because they might as well have done. Because it's kind of like, obviously it's somewhat dystopian. There's like this regime back home doing this stuff, and it's like, you could probably just say, hey, look, it's America in the future. We don't have
to... even sort of have a little sort of keep mentioning the sort of, you've got to get there before the South Koreans do. The South Koreans
that would still work.
And but I mean, that was the only thing that sort of, it didn't bother me, but it was a bit weird. Every now and again, you go, "Oh yeah, he's supposed to be Czech."
Yes, yeah. It's a minor thing, but I agree, it is a bit distracting.
Yeah, but I mean, I highly recommend this movie. I think it's a beautiful, thoughtful piece about humanity, and I liked it a lot.
Yep, I completely agree. I thought it was wonderful.
So, moving on to Napoleon.
See, I knew. I was like, that's talking of self-indulgence. Let's talk about Napoleon.
Right. We mentioned many times Ridley Scott, one of my favourite directors.
One of the best directors of all time.
My favourite movie ever.
Two of my favourite movies of all time.
Yeah.
So no complaints on. I'm not like any. Same as George Lucas, where it's like, for all the crap that George Lucas made towards the end of his career, it's still not going to change the amazing stuff he did at the beginning.
He still made Star Wars.
He still made Star Wars. And, Ridley Scott still made Alien. He still made Blade Runner. He made a slew of fantastic movies. I'm not a big fan of his more recent stuff, but doesn't change the fact he's amazing. And also, even his bad films are well directed, in terms of visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got, Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon. You've got Vanessa Kirby as Josephine. You've got a huge sort of cast list of mostly British actors and even some like weird comedic actors like Miles Jupp as Emperor Francis and little sort of things like that, which is quite funny. And it's I believe there's a 4-hour version.
I believe there is too.
But I watched the 2.5 hour version. And I love the Napoleonic era. I'm not an expert by any means, but I love that whole sort of period.
Well, maybe you can confirm a rumor that I've heard. Because I've heard that this film basically tells all the parts of Napoleon's life that you aren't really interested in seeing and ignores all of the really interesting stuff. It's basically what I've heard. But I've not seen it. So they're like, wow, you missed all of that out to show us this? Okay.
You've got the big hits like Waterloo and
of course.
Borodino and Austerlitz. So you've got those sort of hits, and you've got
the action bits, yes.
Yeah, and then it concentrates way more on the Josephine relationship.
Right.
Oh Christ, where do I start? Okay, so as I said, I love that period.
You love the period, yeah.
I'm one of my favorite movies for favorite war movies is Waterloo.
Sure, yeah, it's a great movie.
Love that movie. And Steiger in that as Napoleon is great. I mean, the good thing about that movie really is you get there in the monologues, so you know what Napoleon's thinking. You know how he sees the enemy. You know how so you get that. You don't get that with this. And I suppose the biggest problem with this movie is that it's the life of Napoleon in 2.5 hours, which is, when you think
mental.
About it, fucking ludicrous.
Yeah, but that's why, when you're like, oh, let's do Waterloo, you're like, okay, a film around one event, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know whether they should. supposedly Spielberg has been working on a series for a number of years now, and that would have been a much better idea. Either make it a series or make it a number of movies, like 2 or 3 movies. You know,
Yeah.
the different stages of the career would have, I think, would have just fit much better.
Yeah, like that would be really cool, like a trilogy of Napoleon's life.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
And I mean, almost like a Crown thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
different actors playing the different stages. So you'd have somebody, young and for the first bit, and then you'd have somebody
like Joaquin doing
the
middle bit,
and then you get the later bit where the sort of the overweight sort of sallow guy at the end. The worst thing for me in this movie is Joaquin Phoenix is fucking awful in it.
That is a travesty, because I actually think Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor.
I'm not the biggest fan of Joaquin Phoenix, but he can. Do
you think he's just miscast?
Actor. Or? He can. There are movies where he's great in. I mean, even that Beau is Afraid, where he's completely fucking. He's great in that movie. He's. I don't think he ever knew what he was doing in this movie.
Do you think he was miscast, or do you think he just didn't do the homework, or just didn't?
Well, by the sounds of it, he didn't know what he was doing up to 10 days before they were shooting.
Oh God!
He literally said, "I don't know what I'm doing."
There's enough books out there, dude.
Well, that's it. I think apparently him and Scott then sat down, and then they pored over everything, and they supposedly had their plan then, and he knew what he was doing, and his Napoleon is awful. I mean, I'm not saying Napoleon wasn't a fucking awful person, but his Napoleon is this sort of reedy, weird sort of oinking, snorting fucking baby man-child. He's fucking awful.
Wow.
I don't understand how this guy could inspire troops.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, whether you think Napoleon was a piece of shit or not, he clearly had some kind of charisma or ability to have people believe in him.
Yeah.
So you need to convey that as an actor in your performance. You need to convey the fact that people might follow this guy and not just think he's an asshole.
Yeah, and his tantrums and things have been documented.
Of course.
Especially towards the later part of his career, he became a little more self-indulgent, and he became a lot more, unaccepting of failure, basically. He became a little more rage.
Yeah.
But this just paints him as this sort of obsessive little freak who, his relationship with Josephine is so weird. He's got these things where he'll sort of turn up and he'll make these sort of oinking noises and just to have sex with her, and he'll be all sort of like weak and sort of, and she says, she's the real power behind him, and it's like, what is this? What the fuck is going on here? Why have you made him like this? It's just so weird. It's such a weird performance. I just hated it. The sort of the bits where he's sort of inspiring the troops in the battle scenes and stuff. He's sort of, he seems more sort of, he seems to pull himself in a bit more, and he's a bit more reserved, and he sort of, gives these speeches and things, but there's no life in them. There's no sort of, you'd hope that Napoleon would be able to give a speech that makes it sound like if you can't make me care what he's saying, then how the fuck am I supposed to accept that this guy could bring all these guys? Especially one scene where it's towards the end, where he's been exiled, he's come back, and the troops have come out and they're going to arrest him. They're going to arrest him, to put him back, all that sort of stuff, right? And he gets off his horse and he goes to talk to the troops that are going to arrest him. And it's just such a sort of, oh, my people, I am your leader, and I would never do anything against France and all that, but it's said in such a lackluster, awful way that you just think, no, just shoot him. I can't believe for a second that these troops would go, hey, no, he's right. He's our leader. He's our beloved leader. We love this guy. Why are we arresting him? No, just shoot him. It's awful. And there is, oh God. And as I said, I'm no expert on his full campaigns and stuff, but there are certain things that I know. I mean, things like the weird shooting of the pyramids. Why he did? I mean, I know why he did it. He basically said, "Oh, I shot the pyramids because it was to prove that he conquered Egypt." It's like you.
There are other ways of doing that, sir.
You
could have a line of dialogue that would happily cover that. To be honest, if you don't want to show it, if you're not going to do it properly, then just have it in dialogue. We don't need to see him shoot the pyramids.
No, and worse, his relationship with Josephine. I think that I don't say. I'm not sure whether I should genuinely accept it, but it's accepted that he loved Josephine more than she loved him.
Yeah, that's.
He wrote these wonderful letters to her, and she very rarely replied to them. And I don't want to besmirch her, but it seems to me that she.
I don't think she'll mind.
She was more of a pragmatic, went where the money was.
Yeah.
Sort of type person, and he was. Obviously, he was an ambitious and you could say some people, a psychopath maybe, but he clearly had a romantic idea of her, and that she clearly didn't. They don't really go into any of that. They don't deal with any of that stuff. You don't get any sort of stuff like that. And he reads while he's in Egypt, he reads in a newspaper that she's screwing around on Napoleon. She's having an affair with one of his troops. La 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 la. So he leaves the campaign to go back to France because his wife is having an affair. It's like, when did that fucking happen? That didn't fucking happen. What the fuck? Why? Because I kind of understand it if this felt like a great romance.
Sure, if that was the angle of the movie or something. Yeah,
if it felt like, oh my God, he's leaving his troops because he loves this woman so much. You don't get that at all.
Yeah.
It's a weird. It's just so horrible, and they clearly want to show him as a twat. They don't.
But the thing is, history documents him as a bit of a twat. But you have to show him, like you said, he has to be someone that can at least inspire troops and have people follow him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work otherwise. Like, none of this works if that isn't the case.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of sort of inconsistencies with the stuff, which is, historical movies.
It's always it's always difficult.
Yeah, but this just feels like it's almost done to sort of just to make him look like a dick.
It's almost like here's the real history.
Yeah,
here's Napoleon. Here's the like if it was like a naff or low budget movie, it would be like, oh, the secret. You know, the real story of here's the real story of Napoleon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not. It's awful. It's. I mean,
I've heard nothing but bad things. To be honest, I've not seen it, but I've heard. Everything I've heard has just made me not want to watch it, if I'm honest.
At the very end, they put up a list of the French soldiers that died in all of his battles.
Right.
No context, nothing. No.
Okay.
Just, this is all the people he killed. I think, what about all the things that Napoleon actually did do? Like,
I was going to say.
Reforming religion, reforming education, reforming politics. He actually did do some fucking good things, for France. He kind of he was in a period where France was fucked because of the terror and stuff,
Yeah.
But they don't really go into any of that.
Weird.
They don't give you any sort of.
So it's a very unbalanced story.
Oh, it's massively unbalanced.
Yeah.
And Scott is like, he's been so disrespectful to fucking historians, like they're pointing things out. It's like,
I know. It's like his no
thing
offense.
Was, were you there? No, then fuck off. It's like, but these things are documented.
But they have read books from people that were, though, which I'm willing to bet you haven't.
I mean, I was really happy when I heard that Stanley Kubrick had basically spent most of his life obsessed with Napoleon. And he'd been working on. Well, I'm not sure it would, honestly, even if he had lived longer, I'm not sure he would have ever got round to making it. But
probably not.
He had a massive archive of stuff, and I was really happy when I heard that Scott was taking that and he was using it. What I didn't know was
took
later,
it and ignored it.
him and his writer then took that, decided it was not workable, and just gutted it and did their own thing.
Yeah.
You think, why? Why did you? I don't understand what his agenda was, other than just to make him an awful person.
Well, that sounds like exactly what he was aiming for. I
mean, I'll give it, the fucking battle scenes are great.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, again, he's a great director. Some
seriously fucking gory, like, people getting ripped apart by cannon fire. The Austerlitz scene, Austerlitz is great.
Yeah.
It didn't happen quite like that, but that's fine. I don't mind that. You take a certain amount of liberties with what happens. It's fine. And there's some really fucking cool shots of the cannons breaking the ice and men and horses going through the water and trying to get out and struggling, and it's really beautiful. I can't fault his direction, looks wise, and it looks great. The costumes are great. The places look great.
Yeah.
The battle scenes, Waterloo is okay, but it's not going to be ever going to be as good as the movie Waterloo, because that movie was just about that fucking battle.
But exactly, like I said, that you're obviously going to be able to tell a more complete story when your focus is a little more,
I admire and love the fact that he didn't do it all CG. That he.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
So all that stuff's great, but the movie itself, it's now my confirmed as my least favorite Scott film ever. It's
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of a Scott movie that's worse than this. Wow. And honestly, it's mostly down to Joaquin Phoenix. He's terrible. I just honestly, it just feels like he was the wrong guy for it. And I even thought, when they picked him, I thought, okay, I can see that. I think he's got the acting chops to pull it off. But to me, it feels like he just didn't know how he was going to play it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Scott. It didn't also feel like Scott knew how he wanted him to be played either.
Well, clearly not.
Maybe the 4-hour version will be better. I don't know. There's a lot more you could, there's an hour.
Well,
and a half
the trouble
more.
is, though, it sounds so biased in its portrayal of Napoleon that it just sounds like it would just be just as maddening, but for longer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's you don't really get to know any of the, and there's a lot of characters in this movie.
Of
but
course.
You don't really get to know anybody. You don't get to, for any sort of feel for any of them.
Mm.
His brothers are in it. You don't really get any fucking characterizations from any of his brothers. I mean, his fucking brothers became kings of like Italy and other countries and shit. Doesn't really get any of that. Doesn't.
Yeah.
His generals. You like. Can we have some characterization? Can we have. Can we know the people around him?
Yeah.
But you don't. They don't give any of that, and it's honestly, I hated it, and I would tell anybody, just stay the fuck away from it. It's a terrible fucking movie. Watch. I mean, I've never seen the is it 1920s movie, the black and white one, which is like 4 hours.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, never seen it, but I would just go watch that. And I know I think there's a TV series from the 90s maybe, which is supposed to be good. But no, fucking stay away from this. Watch fucking Sharp for.
Yeah, Sharp's great.
Sharp.
Can't get wrong with
Certainly
Sharp.
watch Waterloo because that movie is fucking awesome.
Yes, yeah, agreed.
You know, this movie just doesn't do justice to Napoleon at all. It just makes him this horrible man-child with no fucking charm or no real, depth or anything. It's just, oh fuck it, I hate this movie.
You've done nothing to dissuade me from my decision to not watch it. And pretty much you've just confirmed like all of the horror stories I've been hearing about it.
Awful.
So
it's awful, and I mean, even the things like Dan Snow, the historian Dan Snow, I think he was critical of it, but I think he said he kind of enjoyed it, and he was like Scott told him to get a life. It's like, he's a fucking historian. That is his life, you moron. It's like what is wrong with you? Scott feels like he just was chucking his toys out the pram on this one.
Yeah.
I can't honestly fathom it.
Do you think Scott was behaving like Napoleon?
Maybe.
Yeah. Wow. Well, can't say I'm surprised, but
No, the thing is I'd heard all the reviews and I'd seen all the rest. I just thought I'm going to watch it anyway. I love that period. I love.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, you sometimes you hear reviews and then you see it and you're like, actually, I really liked that movie. Yeah, it happens. So anyway, I watched The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, based on the Roald Dahl movie, books, short stories, the Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and 6 more. So this is Wes Anderson, which is obviously Wes Anderson from the first 5 seconds of watching it. It's like the most Wes Anderson movie that I've seen in a while. And this cast is ludicrous. Ralph Fiennes.
That's the thing with Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, I know, right?
Actors want to be in Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah, I mean,
so he gets wonderful cast.
He gets anyone he wants, I think.
Pretty much.
I mean, Ralph Fiennes, Benedict Cumberbatch, Dev Patel, Ben Kingsley, Richard Ayoade. The list goes on, and they're all playing multiple roles in different stories and different parts. But yeah, it tells primarily the story of Henry Sugar, this man who's basically inherited a fortune thanks to gambling. Basically, he's a prolific gambler, and he comes across this doctor's report of this man who claims he could see without using his eyes, and he basically we see the story of this man and how he learned to see without using his eyes, and then basically he then gets to the point where he has the ability to see the backs of cards, and he can basically learn how to basically win every game, and he comes up with this plan of how he's going to use the money and what he's going to do with it. That's the basic story. There's other short stories like The Swan, this bullied kid who's ultimately made to jump out of a tree with wings, like wings tied to him and stuff. A rat catcher story about this man who catches rats.
That's the Ray Fiennes one, yeah.
Ray Fiennes also plays Roald Dahl. He also plays a number of characters through this story, through this film. But yes, he does play the rat catcher. All of the performances are amazing. There's not a bad performance in this film. This film, I think, is one of Wes Anderson's more creative films, and that is saying something.
Wow. Okay.
The direction of this movie is incredible. It's filmed like a play.
Mm.
So everything's done like most things are done in camera to where it's basically like a stage. Like the framing of the shot is a stage, and often you will have stagehands come on and move things and do things while they're talking. The fourth wall is broken all the time, so anytime they're sort of saying bits from the book or monologuing, they're looking directly at the camera and saying that. Like props are obviously props. Like there's a scene with the guy this levitating and he's basically on a box and they just turn the box so that it matches the background, so he's just sat on the box.
Right.
And stuff like that. It and you know, like I said, the sets move and you know, it's clearly it's like a theater set.
So that's very much like that, the Meteor City then.
I think though it's more effective here based on what you were saying about just purely based on that. I think it's more effective here, probably mainly because it's Roald Dahl and it kind of lends itself to this style in a really weird way. Like the stories are kind of outrageous and fantastical anyway, so it really lends itself to that style of visual storytelling. I really loved this movie. I had a really good time watching this.
Okay.
It's quite short. It's not a very long movie. I think it's about an hour and a half. All in all.
It's 40 minutes here, I think, is it?
Yeah, I think though so I don't know what's happened here. The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar is a film that is 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
That I think is just about Henry Sugar.
Right.
The film I saw on Netflix was the story of Henry Sugar, and I think it's and four more or six more. I think it's and four more. So it tells additional stories, because there was originally a collection of Roald Dahl that was The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar and six more.
Yeah.
And it tells six other stories. This, I think, it doesn't tell six. It tells a few less. But it basically tells this story, and then it intersplices other stories. So there's other stories that come into it as well. I could be wrong. Maybe it is only 40 minutes long.
Well,
I'm sure it was longer. But
I thought they were on Netflix. I thought they were all separate. I didn't realise that they were together.
It may be that they were.
I know. I think they all came out roughly. I think they all came at the same time. And I know they're all Roald Dahl stories, but I thought they were separate, sort of, you know.
It may just be that Netflix have packaged it as a you know a thing together, but it works wonderfully well together. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's bizarre. It's very Wes Anderson, and as you said, your mileage may vary. You're absolutely right. I do think all Wes Anderson movies are Marmite, to be honest, because I've not liked some of them. And you haven't either. But when they hit for me, they really hit. Sorry?
I hated Meteor City.
Is it Asteroid City or Meteor?
Asteroid City, yeah. I keep calling it fucking
No.
City,
especially when it's a movie you hate anyway. You're like, well,
yeah.
I don't need to store that in my brain anymore. It's gone.
No.
Yeah, I'm the same. But when Wes Anderson hits, he really hits for me. And this one I thought was really charming. I'm not I'm not like a Roald Dahl scholar by any stretch of the imagination, so I can't speak to the accuracy of this. I vaguely remember some of the stories in this. But again, Roald Dahl was one of those something I enjoyed when I read it in school once, and I haven't gone back. So
I think maybe that's maybe it's better because it's him working off other people's work and not him. Because I think Asteroid City was him. That's Wes Anderson turned up to 11.
Yeah.
That's him, you know, again, talking of fucking self-indulgent. I think that's him fully cranking it up.
Yeah.
Because I love Fantastic Mr. Fox. I love Dogs.
Well, Fantastic Mr. Fox is another Roald Dahl, right?
Yes. Yeah. Royal Tenenbaums I liked. But they start losing me at, what was the one with the Moonrise Kingdom? That was one that I was like, oh no, don't like this. But you know, he's massively creative, and he has a quirkiness that people love. That I think the Asteroid City one certainly didn't translate for me. It was not, but and that kind of did put me off watching any of these ones.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that. I have to be in the mood for Wes Anderson. Even if I know nothing of the movie going in, I'm like, am I in the mood for this? Because potentially it has that Marmite effect on me. So,
yeah.
But this one really hit. I just think, the visual presentation is tremendous and really works for this story. It works for Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
And the performances are tremendous. I mean, not that that's hard from these actors. Every one of these members of these casts could put in a good performance in their sleep, so it's not hard. But you can tell they're invested and they're really giving their A game to these performances. I think it's tremendous, especially when they're playing different parts throughout the film. Each part is distinct and different. They're not just walking through the lines. So yeah, it feels like a really bizarre stage play. But yeah, a wonderful, wonderful telling of this story, and yeah, I really do recommend it. Like you said, I'm not sure if it may have come out as short films. I know it's been around a while. I was just post move. I just wanted to not come to this review with only one film again, so I was like desperately find something, and I was like, oh, that might be fun. It's short. I'll give it a go, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because it looks like on here on IMDb, it's got you've got the Poison, the Swan, and the Ratcatcher, and I think they all they all came. I think they all came out at the same time. So
I think Netflix have just packaged them together. I'm sure, because at one point I paused it, and when I came back, it was like one long movie. It wasn't parts.
Okay.
So I don't think it's the fact that I didn't notice the Netflix logo popping up and it going into another episode. I'm pretty sure it was all one thing. So I'm wondering if they've just packaged it into a movie. But I really enjoyed it either way. So yeah, highly recommend it. So I had a good week this week. The last couple of weeks, the 2 films I have watched, I really loved. So yeah.
Okay.
What else have you watched?
Well, speaking of directors that can be a bit Marmite as well.
Yeah.
So I've also seen Poor Things by Yorgos Lanthimos. So, he's another one of those directors who has slightly odd movies that, people either really hate or really love.
Yeah.
And, you got Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Lobster. I really like The Lobster and Dogtooth, which is, so he's got that sort of, I think he has a rather very much like Wes Anderson. You get a feel for his movies.
Yeah.
So this is another movie that's based on a book, and this one is about the Emma Stone character of Bella Baxter. So we've got Emma Stone, we've got Willem Dafoe as Godwin Baxter, we've got Remy Youssef, Mark Ruffalo, the bits and pieces. But so Emma Stone's character Bella Baxter is a woman in basically a sort of steampunky Victorian setting, and she was a pregnant woman who committed suicide, and her body was taken to Willem Dafoe, who is a Frankenstein-like doctor, who is also a Frankenstein's monster-like character, because he's heavily scarred and he seems to have mismatching body parts, and you learn weird things about him and the experiments his father put him through, which are very odd. He takes the body of this woman and he takes out the brain of the unborn child and puts it in the head of the woman.
Okay.
And basically brings her up kind of as his daughter, with this basically baby in a fully grown adult's body.
Right.
Then what proceeds to happen is we follow Bella on her sort of journey of becoming who she is, or a journey of discovery, her awakening, if you like.
Yeah.
So sort of the first sort of part of the movie is in black and white, and it's got kind of like the baby stage where, because babies apparently don't see color.
Is that right?
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Babies don't see color until they're so many months old.
I guess that makes some sense if the body's growing. It's just not a thing I ever knew. So I've learned something today.
Yeah. So they basically, for the first sort of, I don't know, 20 minutes or so of the movie, it's in black and white, and I think the movie progressively as it adds more color as it goes along. Actually,
that's a nice touch.
So it's mostly her sexual awakening,
which is kind of weird.
Her discovering
it's actually a child's brain, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's her discovering masturbation, and then her basically she Willem Dafoe's character, he gets he's this sort of doctor who gives lectures and things, and one of his students, Maxwell McCandles, he is sort of like, he's obsessed with the professor, and he's obviously this sort of like quite a meek guy who looks like he's probably bullied by the other students, but he's fascinated by the work. And Baxter kind of takes him in as to take note of her development. So he's writing all these notes on her breaking plates and finding what things are, and how her vocabulary is changing and all that sort of stuff. And he basically falls in love with her. He becomes sort of obsessed with her. And before they can sort of, it's like, oh, I'm going to marry you, with all that sort of stuff. And she, Baxter decides, oh, okay, we'll do this, but we'll make it legal. We'll draw up documents about this sort of, what the contract and what your interactions with her will be. So enter Duncan Wendelburn, who's Mark Ruffalo's character, who is this awful lawyer who turns up, and basically he then proceeds to he sort of becomes fascinated by the idea. He's like, this contract is so fucking weird. He wants to meet who it is. So he sneaks into the house to see her, and he immediately becomes obsessed with her, and they run away together. So from there they go through, they go to I forget where it is they go first. Lisbon, I think. Lisbon, and then as the movie goes on, they go from country to sort of different countries and stuff, and it's each sort of part is Bella being introduced to new ideas and new sort of ways of thinking, and reading books on philosophy, and then she's sort of shown about the poor and sort of how awful life is by a different guy, and what becomes of the lawyer and his obsession with her, and it's a really interesting movie. It's rather like you were saying about the sets and things. This for Sugar thing. This also feels like it's play. The backgrounds and the sets all feel very much like their stage work. And they're really beautiful. The sort of ship that they travel on is this really cool fucking steampunky sort of ship. They've got a steam carriage, and Lisbon has this sort of like rail tram system and stuff, and it's got these really lovely sort of rich backgrounds that are just so well done. And apparently the inspiration for a lot of that was Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, nice.
In how
we both have a love for that one, so
he wanted you know how oh, for fuck's sake, the director's name's escaping me. Coppola. How Coppola wanted, his backgrounds to be almost like stage things.
Succeeded.
This is very much like that.
Yeah.
So, good things. Emma Stone is wonderful as this sort of as a child in an adult's body. She, for the first sort of stuff, she's stomping around like a toddler and breaking things like a toddler does, and eating things and spitting them out, and she's doing all that, and her her performance changes as she goes along, and she learns, and she does all that. There is a lot of Emma Stone naked in this movie.
Right.
There are a lot of sex scenes, a lot,
which is really weird considering context. Like it's a child. I know it's like obviously. I mean, maybe I'm just being I don't know, over the top with this, but like I'm hearing the plot and I'm like, this is really fucking weird.
Honestly,
like it's uncomfortably weird to me.
If I'm
honest.
That's the dilemma I have with this movie.
Yeah.
Is that the performances, Defoe's great as the sort of this obsessive sort of Frankenstein monster and doctor. Yeah. And it's definitely a very sort of, I mean, it has very feminist leanings, let's say, and almost every bloke in it is horrible in some form or another way, whether it's William Dafoe's, weird obsessions and weird experiments and weird, hang-ups, or whether it's McCandless's sort of weak-willed obsession, or Mark Ruffalo's awful predatory obsession, and all the men in it are pretty much horrible.
Yeah.
So you do have that, lens through it, and you even like one of the other guys that shows her that the poor, he's doing it for bad reasons. He's doing it because he's jealous of her liveliness. He shows her the suffering because he sees her as too idealistic, and he just wants to hurt her.
Yeah.
So there's that, but the performances are so good, and it looks fucking amazing. There's just this ickiness at the back of my head.
Yeah.
That it's I don't know, maybe if they would have gone, okay, that was that stage, and now
we'll skip forward a couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
but it's because, and both Emma Stone and the director have said, but it's, if you're thinking about it that logically, then you shouldn't be reading stories.
Well, I can't help that.
There's sure, it's a fantastic, cool movie. It's a, it's clearly a fantasy.
Of course.
But you still have to have a certain amount of.
But you must be aware that people are going to naturally think, this is a bit fucking creepy.
Because it does feel wrong, and you just can't help feeling, it just feels wrong.
Well, because being a child isn't just a fucking body thing, it's a brain thing as well. Like, the brain develops. I mean, the movie went to the bloody trouble of having half of it in black and white because apparently toddlers don't see things in colour. I didn't know that, and apparently the movie, they knew that, so they must know the brain develops as well as the body, right? It's kind of creepy on the you're effectively taking advantage of a child.
Yeah.
Sexually. That's really weird. Just throw it out there. I mean, maybe it's just me and you, man. Maybe other people are I don't get it. It's fine.
I think a lot of other people that watched it as well. I mean, it's a really hard movie to sort of come to terms with, mainly because of that. Because it looks great. The performances are great. There's some really great stuff in it. There's just this, ickiness that I can't get away from.
Yeah, I think I would be the same.
It's I would kind of recommend it. I'd say watch it, because
Sounds like it's visually
movie.
stunning and you know, well acted and stuff. It's just
it's such a beautiful movie. But I would, I say, you know,
I feel like I'll need
I'll
need to have a shower and clean myself after watching this fucking thing. So
my
I'm not
wife
sure.
refused to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think I will either, if I'm honest.
I told her the plot, and she was like, "No," I'm like, and I couldn't. I mean, there's no way I could
argue. No,
but it looks like a good movie. Come on, it's like, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. I think I'm in her camp.
There is so much to love about it. It's really annoying, and like I said, I would recommend it.
But I guess it just needs that warning.
There's just an overriding ickiness about it that you just can't quite turn off. I mean, I'm sure I mean, I think Emma Stone won an Oscar for her performance. So this that, I mean, not that we give a fuck about the Oscars anymore, but it's very hard to fully recommend it as a great movie because of that. It's such a weird movie to sort of review.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if it wasn't for that, I'd just go, "Oh God, you've got to watch it because it's beautiful and the performances are great." It's just, but oh no, oh God, I would say if you can at least just.
God, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm like, well, if it was like, oh, it's an adult brain, but they're amnesiac and they've forgotten everything.
Yeah,
but even then,
goes, well, why is that any different?
It's still creepy. That's the thing. It's still creepy. It's
still
like
someone being taken advantage of.
It's still someone being massively taken advantage of. I don't know. It's weird. I can't. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. And I haven't seen it. I'm just going off what you're telling me, but it doesn't sound.
I honestly, oh God, it's so sort of like I said. I'm repeating myself again. It's such a beautiful movie.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
In its looks and its performances, and just all round, it should be a movie that I can go, yeah, fucking watch it. Everybody should watch this movie.
Yeah.
But I can't say that. I can't say everybody should watch this movie because it's just too weird and icky,
Yeah.
No,
I get that.
But that's the sort of the soul of the movie is that. And I think the weird thing is so I haven't read the book, but from what I've read on the book is that the book is a sort of a comment on society. It's that sort of it's which this movie kind of is, but only one-sided. Whereas in the book, I think so. This part of the book, the idea that about the brain and the doctor and all that sort of stuff, and Bella Baxter being a child in an adult's body, that's only the McCandles' character's point of view. He's telling the story of how she left him and went off, and he's made up this sort of weird gothic story. But I think when the Bella Baxter character turns up, she says that's all bollocks.
Right.
And then apparently there's also stuff that's set in the modern era to do with Glasgow when Glasgow was city of culture.
Yeah.
So can't remember when was that? Early 2000s was that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's written from different points of view, and it also has modern sections.
Right.
This movie doesn't deal with any of that. From what I can gather, the novel is a very Glasgow-centric book.
Right.
Which I don't even think they mention fucking Glasgow in this movie at all. Not remotely. It's like London, Lisbon, I think Athens slightly, and Paris, and then back to sort of London. So you get all that, but basically it sounds like he's just scooped out one part of that book and presented that, and not dealt with any of the other stuff. So
yeah,
maybe if it would have turned out that, I don't know, the more fantastical stuff was bollocks, then you wouldn't have felt so icky.
Yeah.
But because he's just done the fantastical story, it's hard to tell whether you'd feel differently if they actually did the book. I don't know.
Oh well.
So I mean, I can recommend it as a experience
with a warning, I guess,
as a beautiful looking, well acted movie, but it's up to you whether you can switch that part of your
as the director and lead are requesting you do. Whether you can manage that.
Oh, they certainly are. They say, I mean, the director and the star say, no, you shouldn't think of it that way. If you start,
it's your film, man. You made it this way.
Yeah,
I can't help how I'm thinking about it.
You have to think of it as a fantasy, not as a real thing. It's like, well,
do I?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, almost all movies require a sense of switching off, certain logical parts of your brain.
Yeah, but think about all of the horrendous things you could depict on camera, and then just have the excuse of like, oh, well, you're not supposed to think of it like that.
Yeah.
If I like a 2-hour movie of murdering babies.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, you shouldn't think of it like that. It's not, it's fantasy.
No.
Like, no, it's still fucking uncomfortable to watch, though, isn't it? It doesn't change the fact that it's uncomfortable to sit through.
Yeah.
Like... Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Anyway, you have seen something else, though.
I have. So I've also seen Land of Bad.
I can't go over the title, but go for it.
This year's award for shittest title.
I think so. It's certainly a top contender.
Apparently, it was originally called JTAC.
Oh, that's better.
I mean, I don't know why they just didn't go with that, but... so I didn't actually know anything about this bloody movie.
I never heard of it.
Didn't know anything about it. My brother-in-law watched it and was like, watch this.
Okay.
He didn't tell me anything. He just said, just watch it. So okay. His taste sometimes...
As I said, depends how much you trust your brother, I guess.
Yeah, his taste sometimes is he likes some weird shit. Well, not weird shit, just stuff that I think is terrible.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're being
but
nice.
He was convinced that I would like it, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll give it a go. Right. So, it's directed by William Eubank, stars Liam Hemsworth, Luke Hemsworth, and Russell Crowe. It's also got, I always mess his name up. Oh, for fuck's sake. I can't even see his fucking name. Ah, there it is. Milo Ventimiglia? The guy from Heroes.
Yes.
Who, I quite like him. Anyway, so, we've got Luke Hemsworth's character, JJ Kinney, who is a JTAC operator, which basically means he's the guy that coordinates things like drone strikes and operations from the the field, while other people control the drones and the planes, and he tells them where to go and what to aim at, and whether how if they can get them out of where they're going. So you've got him who he's looks like I think he's only been on one previous combat mission.
Right.
So he's very inexperienced, and he is basically grabbed by Milo's character and Luke Hemsworth and Ricky Whittle, who are full-on badass sort of Marine types, right? Now they're like, "Come on, you've got 5 minutes to get your stuff and come with us," right? And he's like, "Okay," and he's like, "You are Halo qualified, aren't you?" And he's like, "No." It's like, "Okay, you'll be fine." And you think, "Okay, it's going to be one of those things."
I'm not sure I will be, but okay.
Yeah. So they are going to the Philippines to rescue a CIA asset who was captured. or he's gone quiet, and they presume he's been captured in this compound. There is a Russian arms dealer there, and they believe he is going to be meeting someone.
Right.
So it turns out he's going to be meeting I can't remember what the name of the organization, but it's a sort of one of those sort of ISIS type deals.
Yes.
Right. So they drop in, get there, and there's some really nice banter between them and they quite early they bring the Ricky Whittle character Bishop. He clearly doesn't like what Hemsworth's character does,
right?
Because he's a boots on the ground guy. His point is that all that technology shit that could just drop off any moment.
Yeah. You need skills outside.
Yeah,
of
when it comes down
on,
to it, it's you and a rock sort of thing. You know what I mean? It's just that sort of thing. So they have a sort of not terribly antagonistic, but as a sort of rivalry of he does all the technical stuff, I do the shooting. So they get to their thing. Let's just say it all goes to shit.
Of course.
Right. So Russell Crowe, Captain Eddie Grim Reaper, he's the drone sort of pilot.
Yeah.
And he's in the in the base in Vegas. And you get the impression that, you get the impression, and he tells you eventually, his wife is pregnant, he's waiting for a phone call, right? From the thing. But in the operations room, there's not in the operations room, in the sort of rec room, there's a basketball game going on, and they're ignoring the phone, and he's like, you've got, fucking listen to that phone because my wife's going to labor, blah, 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 blah. Right? So you get the impression that he's not a washout, but he's obviously clearly been kept back a bit. He's obviously one of those problems with authority types. He doesn't get on with his commander.
Sure.
He's old school, so at some point you learned that he was an actual pilot, but he did something wrong, and then they kept him on shit duties. Now basically he flies the drones because he needs the money, sort of thing. So you get that, and you get his other oppo, who is really cool, and I can't find her name. Which there she is there. Branson, played by Chika Ikgwawi. She's his, she's his sort of his partner, sort of thing, in the drone operations room. And obviously, it goes wrong. First of all, the drone goes down, so that all the communications gear goes down, so they're without anything for a while.
Yeah.
When it comes back, obviously it all kicks off. There are more troops here than they thought. They didn't secure it as well as they'd like, so obviously it all goes wrong. He ends up on his own, and Crow is, he's guiding him. He's telling him where to go, how to get to, what's going on. The pickup completely fails because the helicopter it's too dangerous for them to pick him up. So they, from there they have to go on. So you get the picture. I love this movie.
Oh, good. Your brother was right.
Yeah,
he got one.
It is a really fun action movie.
Awesome.
The fights are great. The characters are cool. Russell Crowe's great as the crotchety, overweight drone pilot.
Yeah.
He's really fun. There's some really lovely dialogue in there. There's really little sort of some real fun conversations. Also, what I loved about it is it shows you just how fucking devastating drones can be.
Yeah,
and how
sure.
I think it does a very good job of showing what the technology can do, but also if it fucks up, how you still need well-trained soldiers. I mean,
yes, yeah.
There are some seriously unbelievable shit too. Don't get me wrong. There are some serious bits where you think, yeah, he's not surviving that.
Yeah.
But you just go with it. It's really, really fun. Really sort of at times over the top, but believable enough.
Yeah.
That you can, switch off the bit that says, no, he's not fucking surviving that. No, it's fine. Just go with it. It's okay. Even Luke Hemsworth, who is the Hemsworth that you don't see very often, I don't think, or I haven't seen him very much. I liked his character. He was cool. The thing is it as good as something like Extraction? No, nowhere near as good as Extraction or any of those ones that we've had recently. But it is a really enjoyable, stupidly named movie. It's just a good action movie. It's got all the really cool explosions. It's got the silly heroics. It's got the what's that sort of Black Hawk Downy type, get the person here, get there, find this person, do all that sort of stuff. What was that other one? The the one with the pilot goes down and it's like in enemy territory. They remade it
Behind Enemy Lines.
Yes, that one. It's got sort of elements of that to it. So I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
it's just a really fun action movie that
has a terrible name.
It's got fucking awful name, and it's not top tier action movie. It's not Extraction, but it is a fucking well done, well made, highly enjoyable action movie with two really good leads. I think I really liked Liam. I thought he was really good as this sort of guy who's fucking so out of his depth that, I think it does a very good job of him freaking out when he's freaking out and trying out and overcoming that, and just Russell Crowe being there's a I think some people will find it annoying. I loved it. There's a bit where I'm not spoiling anything, but there's a bit where Russell Crowe's character they've been in the control room for long, like 10 hours longer than he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And, he's told to get out, so he gets out. And you've got these sort of scenes of, so he goes shopping. He's gone, he's out, he's gone. Right. You got the new crew come in to deal with the stuff. Liam Hemsworth, I'm not going to spoil what is exactly happening with him, but there's some heavy stuff going on, let's say, with his character, right?
Sure.
And so you've got these sort of scenes of things going on, high fucking anxiety scenes going on with his character, and Russell Crowe just walking around aisles going, hey, is this weird artisanal cheese a thing? And, it's like, his pregnant wife's a vegan, and he keeps making these things about me. It's like, how do you know if someone's a vegan? They will tell you. And it's just him walking around the supermarket, and I think some people will find it very annoying, but I loved it.
I don't know. It's an interesting commentary, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really nice sort of juxtaposition of the two sort of events. It's just somebody going shopping and somebody having awful stuff happen. I really love this movie. I highly recommend it. I if you love action movies, I think you'll love it.
Ah, cool. Well, that's it for all of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about trailers?
I did. Should we start with The Crow?
Sure. I think it looks awful. Don't know what else to say, really. Well, I mean, the action looks okay, but
yeah. I mean, The Crow is the original Crow is, as I've said, when we've done a dive on The Crow. We've covered The Crow.
Did we?
I
cool.
fucking love The Crow.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
There's a poster in my hallway. It's the only movie I've ever seen at the cinema more than like 4 times.
Yeah.
I even quite like most of the sequels.
Wow.
With varying degrees.
How do you feel about the Mark Dacascos series?
I like the series.
Yeah.
It takes some detours. Obviously.
It does. Oh well, it has to as a series,
So with this one, from what
all I remember of that show is that there was the bad guy with the snake.
With Snake. Yeah.
They were like, well, what could eat a crow? Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I did like about this trailer is it looks like they've gone the more heavy on the supernatural stuff.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I like that. I thought that was interesting.
I think I was spoiled by watching that fan film on YouTube, which was really good.
I still haven't finished that.
That was great. I mean, it's a low budget fan movie, but it's really good.
Yeah. From what I've seen, I can't remember what happened. There was a reason why I stopped watching it. It wasn't to do with the actual.
Sometimes these things happen. Yeah.
So that I like that. Things I didn't like.
Yeah.
One, why does he look like the
Everyone's saying this, man.
Yeah. Why did they make him look like that? I mean, I understand they want it from they want the now audience. Fine, that's okay. I get that. But is that still a big thing, that look?
I don't know. I don't see many people like that. Maybe it's just where I am. I don't know.
It's like, what are you doing? So my biggest problem is why are they Eric and Shelley?
Oh, I found it. I was scrolling up and I found a quote that Ben sent me earlier. It's as I'm guessing it's a comment that he found on the YouTube video.
Yeah,
but it's great. It says, in the original, he looks like he could be playing in Nine Inch Nails. Here, he looks like a sad white boy that raps on SoundCloud to no one.
Yes. I mean, they've made them like junkie criminals. They've obviously done time.
Yeah.
They're right. That's not Eric and.
No, why did they keep the names? That is weird. They should have just done like whole new characters.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't understand
because they've got no relation to.
There were quite a few Crow stories.
Yeah,
and each one is a different person.
Yeah,
and even the sequels.
Yeah, the sequels did that.
None of those sequels are Eric.
No,
they're all different people.
Yeah,
right. I don't know why. I mean, if you were gonna do a which this is a reboot of the actual Crow first story.
I swear they said, just like they've done so many times before, just like they did with Kerry and then never did. I swear they said they were going to make this closer to the comics.
Yes, they did.
But they didn't do that. That's a lie.
They did say that exactly.
That's a complete lie. The same with Kerry. They were like, we're going to be closer to the books, and you watch it, you're like, no, you weren't. That was a lie.
I mean, by the sounds of it, that one got fucked over.
Yeah, I'm sure, but
because I think they really were initially planning on doing that, and then
right.
I think the studio was like, "What if we make it more like this? What if we do this? What if you do?" It's like, yeah.
What if we don't do what we promised? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It clearly doesn't have any of the sort of the gothic sensibility.
Oh, the gothic look is gone.
The overall, city wise, that sort of thing. This looks
the architecture's
This looks way slicker. I thought the action stuff looked great, actually.
It looks alright. It's very John Wicky, try hardy.
Yeah, but that's I mean that right now that's the thing.
I know it is, but it's getting really stale. Like really stale. For me, it's getting super stale now. I've got to be honest. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm like, oh god.
I must admit, I didn't hate it as much as I thought.
I didn't hate the action. The action's the one thing of this trailer that I was like, it looks okay.
And I like Skarsgård. I think he's
fantastic, and I'm sure his performance will be great.
Danny Houston on villain role is like, well, that's just a walk in the park for him. That's.
I will say I don't know who it is, but the woman playing Shelley is distractingly awful. And
FKA
the
quiz.
dialogue is distractingly awful from the trailer.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
awful.
I saw her in something where she was.
I'm sure she's fine. I'm just like, in this movie.
Yeah,
from the trailer.
I know that she can actually. I think she's a singer, but I know she can. She can act.
Well, again, I think it comes. A lot of this comes down to script and direction, and it might just be a bad trailer. You know, entirely possible.
My biggest hang up is literally that they're Eric and Shelley.
Yeah, if they'd called them someone else, no one would give a shit about any of the... Because it doesn't need to be gothic, it doesn't need to be anything. It's like, hey, if you're going a different... Because I remember there was the sequel with the prisoner who's on death row, and then he becomes the crow, like his face is all burnt, and he rips it off, and then his the crow underneath and whatever. It was a very different film.
Yeah.
You could do different things. It doesn't have to be that... We're not asking for him to look like Brandon Lee and have that look.
But I'd rather he didn't look like Jared Leto's Joker, but...
Yeah, me too.
Sure.
But then just call him something else, and it would be way more palatable to most people, I think.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of those characters being...
I agree.
...junkie criminals. It's... No.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's... No.
Again, though, it could be fine. I will say, I saw the trailer, and I thought, there's no way I'm watching that in the cinema. It will be a streaming deal for me at best,
I think it's going to... It's going to be a sort of half decent action movie, maybe.
Hopefully, it looks very to me. It looks very direct to DVD kind of job.
Yeah,
you know, like not that exists anymore, but
no.
It does. In fairness, it actually does look like a later Crow sequel.
Yeah,
except they've called them Eric and
except for they've got a slightly more budget. Than
slightly more budget, but still feels that kind of badly written dialogue, naff acting kind of movie.
Yeah.
I mean, tremendous actors in it, so I'm sure it'll be fine performance-wise. But it just, I don't know. It did not do it for me. Let's put it that way.
No, but it didn't make me straight up hate it.
I think it looks bad. I have no interest in seeing it, but I'm sure eventually I will. And hey, it could be great. Who knows? I've seen plenty of films with terrible trailers before that turned out to be wonderful films. So, you know.
I mean, I think some people did say, well, that trailer was like, I don't think I need to see the movie now anyway.
Well, it is one of those trailers, unfortunately. And, you know, I do think there's a very valid argument to be made that, well, the trailer's meant to sell me on it. So if it's not, sorry. that's literally the point of a trailer.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You know, we'll see. I'm sure I'll get around to seeing it eventually.
Yeah. So, the Fallout trailer.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It looks perfect.
Yeah, they nailed it.
It looks like Fallout.
They, you know, and obviously Bethesda are involved. In the production. That doesn't often mean anything towards it looking or feeling like the property they're adapting. But honestly, for the feel
of you're like, you know, they've come a long way down since.
Yeah, they have been knocked down a few pegs.
Games.
Well, it wasn't them anyway, the early ones, but it does. They have nailed the aesthetic and the comedy and the commentary of Fallout. I think they've done a really good job with it. It looks like a Fallout series.
Yeah. Walton Goggins is the ghoul.
Oh, that's perfect casting.
Perfect. I love and you know, as the guy who's you know doing the sales pitch at the beginning as well is like, that's so good.
Yeah. No, I honestly I thought they've pretty much nailed it. It looks like Fallout. So whether it's any good, I don't know.
Have you heard what the sort of showrunner said?
Yeah.
It's like, this game stole so much of my so many hours of my life and stuff. But I'm not making it for the fans. It's like, how
very 2024 of you.
Yeah. Why did you say anything?
Why do you just shut up? I feel like most directors and actors and producers studios need to have a mandate of like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Don't fucking say anything.
We'll tell you what to say.
And certainly don't fucking slag the fans off.
No. Well, that's probably the next thing. That'll happen. That happens now. That happens when people don't bother watching it. But I think this will do well. It looks like Fallout, and
I've got more hope for this than some of the other stuff.
I've certainly got more hope for this than The Crow. So
yes,
I think it looks good. It looks fun.
And the next one that I don't have quite so much hope for, is the Borderlands.
Oh, that looks straight up shit. I forgot I saw that trailer. I fucking hated it. I thought it looked absolutely awful.
Is almost right. The look, it does look like Borderlands.
I don't know why an actress of the caliber of Cate Blanchett is involved in that shite. That was my initial reaction to that trailer. I
don't know why they've picked her for for fucking hell, I'm forgetting her character's name. She's way too old to be that character.
It just the whole thing was really, it was like a really bad fan adaptation is how it felt to me, with a massive grade A list actress. I just do not understand why she's involved in it. Like the opposite reaction to the Fallout trailer, basically, for me. Like the absolute opposite.
Yeah,
I'd forgotten about that. I'd actually erased it from my brain. That was during the move I saw that trailer, and I was like, oh my god, that looks bad.
No, none of those characters felt right. I mean, oh my god, why is... Oh, fuck's sake, what's his... Hang on a minute.
Everyone feels miscast.
Yeah.
The only one that's right is Claptrap, but like you can't really get that wrong, can you? So, you know, you'd have to try to fuck that up.
Yeah. Kevin Hart. Fucking Kevin Hart.
Oh god, yeah.
Why would you pick Kevin Hart to play Roland?
Yeah.
Roland is huge stoic dude.
Uh-huh.
Why the fuck would you get little funny man Kevin Hart to play Roland?
Do you think they contacted The Rock and The Rock was like, well, I'm busy, but my friend is jobless right now? Like,
yeah, he can play that character.
He'll do it. He'll do anything.
It's, oh god. So this is I am gonna be fucking ageist and sexist here.
Oh, go on.
Right. Gina Gershon's too old for Moxie. Cate Blanchett is too old for Lilith.
Uh-huh.
Jamie Lee Curtis is too old for Tannis.
Fair enough.
But
that's like, is that really? Is that being sexist? Because you could say that about male roles as well. We've said that before. Like, hey, Stallone's way too old to play this role.
Male roles aren't fucking cast right either. So
no.
I suppose there is that. Also, that they
the whole thing felt really awkward to me. All of it.
They've also mixed the characters as well, because there were some characters from the first game and some characters from the second game. Yeah. Tiny Tina's doesn't appear till the second game. Is that, if I remember rightly, is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, she's what's his name? The big brute dude. He's not in the first one either. So they've mixed, which is fine. Like, you know, that doesn't really matter. But I guess it depends what story they're telling.
It feels like this film should be made by Uwe Boll and like should have been like come out around the time of, you know, the Dungeon Siege movie and stuff like that. And like Blood Rain. It should be made by that kind of... That feels like where this belongs to me.
Yeah.
I mean, again, just a trailer. It could be great. I don't know.
It could be.
But I had the absolute polar opposite reaction to this as I did the Fallout trailer. The Fallout trailer I saw and I was like, wow, you nailed that. That looks great. Really likable cast. Looks fantastic. This, I was like, oh, this is the opposite of that. This looks awful. I think finally, the Toxic Avenger. Well, I hadn't seen this trailer. I didn't even know it existed until you.
Yeah, I think it dropped yesterday.
To my attention. I mean, sure. I love the original movie.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm glad this movie looks very low budget and cheesy and nasty, as it should.
I was, to be honest, I put the trailer on and I was like, oh my god, it actually looks like a trauma movie.
Yeah, they did do that.
I was totally waiting for it to be just the normal movie.
Too slick and too clean. And,
yeah,
and it doesn't. To their credit, it does.
It looks terrible, which is what we want.
It's exactly what I want from a trauma movie.
Which sounds like a stupid thing to say.
But that's what you sign up for with the trauma movies. Yeah, You're not watching a Troma movie for quality filmmaking. That's
No.
not what they do, you know?
I still have my reservations about Dinklage's Toxie.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
But yeah, I it's certainly a different spin on him. But I honestly was really. I was very surprised at.
So it is, yeah. So it's produced by Legendary and Troma.
Yeah, cool.
Distributed by Legendary. Well, that's cool because I wasn't sure if Troma just sold the rights and it was some other company. So yeah, I'll definitely give it a go. It looks fun. I mean, and it does look like a straight up remake because they've got the diner scene and stuff.
Yeah.
Different, but it looks like it's going to be.
I mean, they certainly you got the gore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got the ripped off jaw.
It's a shame it's CG now, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
there's only so far they're going to let you go with that, I imagine. But
yeah. But I must admit, I was
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, by
same. When I watched it, you brought it to my attention. I watched it just before the show, and I felt the same. I was like, oh, actually, okay.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned at first because it had that fake VHS scan line style, but then I realized, oh, that's just the introduction, and then you actually get to the scene. And I'm like, okay, no, cool, yeah, we'll give it a go.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I think that's a lot.
Wonderful. What are we doing next time?
We are going to the Maltese Falcon.
Yes, indeed. We actually planned this before the show today. We actually had a plan. So yes, we will be back next week with a Maltese Falcon. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we will catch you next time.